Welcome to ESVN, the Emma Sports Vigilant Network show. My name is Emma Vigilant, and it is ESVN OT, where we give our picks against the spread for this week in the NFL season and some other news. You know what to do, folks. Subscribe, youtube.com/ESVN show. Put on push notifications, rate us 5 stars on Apple and Spotify. Hello, Bradley Alsop, my friend. My dear friend. I don't know what I would have done without Bradley in these tumultuous news times on our day job situation with what's happening in Gaza.
It takes a village, and by a village I mean two of us in a studio apartment.
To be honest with you, I mean, this is a studio apartment.
I think so, right? If you had to actually fit it out to
I mean, not to dox
be
ourselves,
habitable,
but many of these apartments in our office building are residential.
Right.
But this is there's no shower in here, right?
No.
So it's sort of a studio
if
apartment,
only.
But it's.
But I never leave.
Yeah, I honestly, I would love to have a shower here just because I could exercise and then come in.
Right.
You got a shower at the gym, and that makes me late and all that kind of stuff. But or you could just tell yourself you're going in the afternoon, sign yourself up for a class at your gym, which penalizes you when you don't show up, and then be too tired and emotionally exhausted at the end of the day and not go. That's my MO.
Yeah, that's the way. Usually I don't even get to the signing up part. I'm just like, no.
I tried to lock myself in and hold myself. I am going to go today. I'm going to go today. I tried to lock myself in, 5:30 class. I'm going to do it. It's free with my membership. But they do lock you out of doing future classes if you miss enough. And I feel badly for the instructors.
Oh, it's punitive. I see.
It is punitive. They lock you out for a week, which is their right because they need to hold idiots like me accountable. Before we get to the NFL, we've got to just touch on the fact that the Texas Rangers have won the first World Series in franchise history. There are now only 5 existing Major League Baseball franchises who have never won a World Series. It's the Padres, the Brewers, the Rockies, the Rays, the Mariners, no longer the Texas Rangers. What a turnaround. What an incredible turnaround for the Rangers. And what an amazing Game 5 to seal it, where it was a no-hitter basically until the 7th inning, right? And I was in and out, but Corey Seager hit a single out into the outfield and on the left side, or I should say on the left side of the infield, and that's really what started things going for the Rangers, and then they were able to close it out.
There are a bunch of crazy things about the Rangers closing this out 4-1 against the Diamondbacks, besides obviously the two teams in the World Series being kind of random and unheralded for a long time. I mean, two teams who literally lost 100 games as recently as 2021. So like a real testament, and also obviously very disparate team building philosophies, because the Diamondbacks had a pretty skeletal payroll, and there were a few people who were still on those teams, that 100 plus loss team for Arizona. Same thing, slightly similar with the Rangers, but the Rangers, with, interestingly enough, their general manager, Chris Young, who was a player for the Kansas City Royals when they won the World Series in 2015, became the general manager of the Rangers and served as the architect to really spend big, get Bruce Bochy in the building, sign Marcus Semien, sign Corey Seager, sign Mitch Garver. These guys, the Rangers really took it upon themselves in a kind of anemic landscape for spending that is taken over the MLB as a way of
so it's good they were not rewarded.
As a way of the owners sort of lining their pockets. It's kind of nice. As much as I liked the Diamondbacks team, I think, like as you said, it's helpful to reward a philosophy of actually trying to win with spending on players.
And the Rangers are the Astros slayers, so that was always
which is also another thing that I was pleased to see. Is
quite fun, right?
Yeah, the team that beat the Astros winning the World Series is also pretty rewarding, given the last few years of near dynastic control of the playoffs that the Astros had. Just a few fun facts about this, which I couldn't believe. It's not lost on me that former Mets Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, and Travis Jankowski all are are World Series champions now.
Understood. I mean, when did DeGrom go out for the rest of the year? What?
Pretty soon. It was
like
basically like it was about
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 weeks into his tenure. So and Scherzer, unfortunately, along with Adolis Garcia, were out for the rest of the series after their injuries, but it didn't
Scherzer
seem to matter
in
actually.
Game 3 through what it was like the third inning.
Yeah, so he got a few innings,
So
and then was relieved. Yeah,
good for him. I mean, he was able to at least pitch and
no,
play
for sure. And I'm always just happy
contribute.
for him, and I love those. I'm very happy for all 3 former Mets, honestly. But it's just hilarious that 3 of them are winning World Series on another team.
Completely.
And then you kind of have to have. I think we see a lot of this in some certain playoff series where there is some mythical attributes to some of these teams, and the Rangers did not lose a game on the road this entire postseason.
Yes.
They went 11-0 on the road. I mean, that is astonishing.
Absolutely.
Like to it, obviously there's a bit of luck, but to have the determination and the resolve to win every game you played in the playoffs in hostile territory is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
And as you said,
it might be unprecedented.
I don't know if I don't know. I can't. I don't know for sure, but I can't imagine many teams have had that exemplary of a road record on their way to a World Series. And as you said, they were no hit through the 6th inning of this game before they basically in a few of these games had kind of anemic stretches with then bursts in just 2 frames to win their games. And so that's also kind of an amazing thing to be that
often in later innings.
Right,
I mean, in game 1 of this too, they went down and then they were able to get a flurry of offense and come back. They're a very potent offensive team.
For sure. I mean, to basically just sort of any sort of catalyst, as you said, with Seager's hit to then kind of get a few guys' bats going. Is all that they needed to kind of shut the door in the games that they won, in the 4 games they won. And 2 other kind of fun things is that Corey Seager, one of, if not potentially the only, he might not be the only, but a very rare occurrence being a World Series MVP in 2 different leagues. And funnily enough, reliever Will Smith on the Rangers, I think might be the only guy to win a World Series on 3 separate teams in 3 consecutive years.
Wow.
So he was on the Dodgers when they won. He was on the Astros when they won last year, and then he was on the Rangers.
Okay,
so that guy is just that guy. You want to sign that guy potentially just because he might have some cosmic attraction to winning World Series.
Look out for Will Smith next year. See if he's on the move to another team. Might be a good place to place a futures bet. Good for the Rangers. Congratulations.
Yes, very happy for them. First time in
the Dallas area
in team history.
Yeah, first time. So now there's only 5 left. 5 non-World Series franchises standing. I apologize to although look, the Padres are set up pretty well, so maybe they'll be the next team.
Yeah, and I think there was just a lot of bad luck there. They basically had one of the highest run differentials in the league despite being literally 20 games behind the the Dodgers for the division lead. So that seems to be like cosmic bad luck and statistical regression, likely.
Weird year in a good way for Major League Baseball. Sure. Also, James Harden traded to the Clippers. The Clippers get Harden, PJ Tucker, and I guess they Petrusev, right?
Yep.
They send back Marcus Morris, Nicholas Batum, Robert Covington, Kenyon Martin Jr., a unprotected first-round draft pick, 2 second-round picks, and pick swap rights in 2029. OKC was the other team in the trade. They're also getting a 2027 first-round pick from the Clippers. The Sixers get a 2026 first-round pick from the Thunder. This was always inevitable. James Harden has been quite vocal about wanting to leave. He called Morey the is it the GM or the team president? I'm forgetting.
President.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I called him a liar multiple times in public. And James Harden has flamed out in a variety of different places. I will say though that it seemed like he wanted to get paid, and the Sixers were not budging on that front. So this will be one last kind of hurrah for the Clippers to try to win in the West with Kawhi Leonard, with Paul George, with Westbrook being a bit reinvigorated. We'll see how that lasts into the season, and James Harden. But, a lot of people have speculated, is James Harden's kind of volume shooting or like shooting prowess conducive to playoff success? it has yet to kind of bear fruit in many ways in getting him to a championship. I feel a little bit like the Clippers are always kind of trying to acquire this talent, and it's always a bit too much of a B team for them to get anywhere close to like really making hay in the NBA playoffs. And I just don't see in the West them really being as competitive as they. I don't really see them overtaking the Nuggets. I don't see them overtaking. What do you think about the Warriors? I don't know, man.
Well, I think it's interesting.
They can keep it interesting with the Suns.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, first of all, obviously, even though Harden took the departure from the team prior to the season beginning, then coming back, but then literally having security not allow him on the plane for their first road games, it was very clear that that situation was going to become untenable. Harden was saying, as you said, Harden called Morey a liar. He said that he was going to try and make things as uncomfortable as possible until he was traded. But it's a weird trade, I think, for both teams in a way, because on the Clippers side, as you're saying, there's a huge amount of reliance on two players in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George who are only getting further and further on the wrong side of 30, who have had numerous chronic injury woes that have led them to be out for significant periods of time, which have hamstrung the Clippers' playoff prospects. Same thing goes for Russell Westbrook, not necessarily in the health realm, but just the fact that Westbrook is 34, 35 as well. And Harden, again, also in his 30s. Four guys who I think will pose a bit of difficulty trying to play them all at the same time, or even when you stagger them, these guys, Ty Lue's at, I think, strategic difficulty here is going to find ways to make it so that everyone on these four pretty ball dominant players get their fair share of touches to either orchestrate or contribute to the offense, or make guys who are not, particularly Westbrook being the most significant culprit here, inclined to play more off ball.
Yeah, right.
And I think,
oh my God, that's the point here, right? Is like what
are they going to do with these guys?
Westbrook has to be marginalized a little bit.
And I think that might be the concern, and I am wondering both on the court and off the court what that will look like.
Yeah, I mean, Westbrook's got to have a little bit of an understanding of, like, he was a disaster in on the other LA team, and his resurgence here. I mean, he has more to prove to be, I think, upset about maybe Harden taking more shots and maybe him taking more of a back seat.
And I think, and honestly, he still have, like, the athleticism is not completely lost. It's more a matter of can he kind of adjust to this role that he's obviously would not be accustomed to, and has been struggling to fit into, to kind of like gel into this new role as, like, more of the elder statesman who contributes less in terms of being a explosive driving to the rack, or kind of chucking up threes, as opposed to moving on ball, getting into more screen and roll action, things like that, to facilitate an offense that isn't just consecutive ISO sets for one of four guys.
Right.
And then on
that's the lack of cohesion here.
Right. And then on the Sixers side of things, they did get a decent haul. I just wonder. I'm now curious what this will look like defensively. Now that defensively and offensively, not saying Harden was contributing a whole lot on defense, but it is a bunch of new pieces in the sense that PJ Tucker, one of their defensive linchpins, is now in LA.
Yeah.
He's no longer there. But they'll get Robert Covington, who, despite being a little older, is also still a very, very good defensive player.
But Embiid's got to think, this just puts more pressure on me.
Oh, certainly, yeah. He's without his kind of running mate, another star. It puts not only more pressure on him, but also more pressure on Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris to kind of accommodate the offense that is no longer there as well. So I think it sort of shuffles a bit of the responsibility down a little bit further from Embiid, with Harden, with the void of Harden. And the void of Tucker, honestly, who, despite being 38 years old, is one of the most dogged perimeter defenders in the league still. So I'll just be curious to see how Covington fits into this, and how there were reports that potentially Danny Green might be getting waived after this trade, but I would almost think that wouldn't make much sense because I think it would be nice to have some sort of kind of reliable knockdown 3-point shooting, again, despite Green's age as well. The age thing is the only slight concern because Covington's over 30, Green's over 30. But, Maxi's very young. They got Kelly Oubre now for a little bit of a spark plug on the second unit. So I still think this team is going to be good. It's more just how far can Embiid take them, how far can now the supporting cast minus Harden take them.
Yeah, agreed. Another quick hitter here. Finally, the Raiders.
Oh, it's Christmas. It's Christmas in this office.
Are you kidding me? I mean, now next up, Brandon Staley. That's what we need. But I was really convinced that the Raiders were going to see this out with Josh McDaniels, just given the fact that it's been noted that. That Mark Davis is just not the kind of guy who wants to fire coaches and pay them to not work for him. He's one of the less cash-rich owners in the NFL, which is it's totally an oxymoron. But I would also say the fact that he's able to do this shows that even the cash poor NFL owners right now are rolling in so much money from gambling, from TV deals, from streaming deals. The NFL is probably more profitable than it's ever been. And so, Mark Davis is like, screw it. Let's get rid of this total clown. And Dave Ziegler, I would imagine that this is influenced by the fact that they didn't do crap at the deadline. They didn't do crap. I mean, the Commanders, Josh Harris was like, all right, this is over. I mean, the Ron Rivera's a dead man walking. We're trading Sweat. We're trading Chase Young. We're resetting. We're getting rid of these people, and we're trying to start a new kind of culture and franchise, even though it's just incredible that the Commanders had 5 first-round picks on their defensive line, and they still have been one of the worst teams in the NFL during that entire period. Not talking about them, I guess, right now, but that's an example of a team that understands where they are.
Well, I was going to say, at least it's at the very least relative, especially to the Snyder administration and relative to other teams that stood pat. It's a statement of intent, at least.
Yes.
There's a nod to next year. There's obtaining draft capital and kind of getting some contracts, getting some expiring contracts off the books.
And that Bears pick, the second round pick that they're going to get,
it'll probably be an early second rounder.
It'll be a top 40 pick.
As we've obviously discussed many times, the Chase Claypool second round pick that became Joey Porter Jr. for the Steelers.
I was between Ryan Poles and Joe Shane, I was really I'll be happy with either of those guys to be the new GM of the Giants.
Now we're
I am very much preferring Joe Shane's approach to what I have seen right now from Ryan Poles, which is quite questionable and desperate in my opinion. But again, the Raiders should have been sellers at the deadline. Their record is way better than they've looked. And that last performance on primetime with Jimmy G looking that bad has to have...
And Devontae Adams getting basically not targeted once, or he was basically targeted, I think, 3 or 4 times for 11 yards. And as you said, he slammed his helmet down at the end of the game in frustration because when
he was targeted, they were egregious misses.
Right. Yeah. So this, in the sense of this is one of the best wide receivers in the entire league who is essentially being rendered a non-entity by the team around him.
Yeah, and he's been vocal that he does not like the culture there. He's been unhappy. I mean, and he wanted out. Why was there not any discussion about sending him to a place like the Chiefs or whatever?
To obtain some sort of capital in any way, draft capital, financial flexibility, anything.
Yeah, because they need to be starting to think about the future of this team. They are in no man's land. They don't know what they are. They don't know if they're competitive. It seemed like they were still clinging to the fact that the Raiders had made the playoffs 2 years ago, but then Josh McDaniels came into the picture. He made the team worse, and he's made the team worse this year. And there seems to be no path forward for how they actually want to operate or run the team. So I never liked how you hear about how many players hate playing for Josh McDaniels. That's already a massive red flag in my book. But the fact that Ziegler seemingly didn't want to make any moves, didn't understand the value of picking up assets in order to rebuild the team, and didn't seem to listen to their star player who had deep concerns about staying in Vegas and wanted out, and there were no discussions on that front. It's got to make you think that these two guys were just a team of arrogant like New Englanders who thought that they can run it like some sort of military operation. And the reality is that this is a business and these players have a say and they should be considered when you're talking, when you're coaching them and when you're moving them around. Like chess pieces. I mean, I was really encouraged to see Leonard Williams say in his press conference with the Seahawks that unlike when the Jets traded him to the Giants, Shane actually came to him and said, where do you want to go? And then he was like, I felt I didn't have the say the first time I was traded. Now I do feel like I have a say. And that's the kind of thing that makes players want to come and play for you. And maybe Mark Davis just basically saw how toxic the culture was there and that he said, time to pull the plug.
And even say like the Raiders are like other, you know, poorly managed football teams and are not looking to the future and are like, we need to hold on to our good guys by any means necessary. You could also do something about, which is like literally the second, and I'm speaking to the decision by, I guess, now interim head coach, former linebackers coach Antonio Pierce on the Raiders.
Yeah, Giants legend.
I was just saying, like true, like remember that guy, like true recent history legend Antonio Pierce. Becoming the head coach now, the interim head coach, and immediately being like, we are benching Jimmy G in favor of Aiden O'Connell, who, if you'll recall, as we discussed on the show, McDaniels literally scoffed at that potential of starting Aiden O'Connell, the 5th round pick from this past year's draft, over Brian Hoyer, like journeyman 15-year veteran Brian Hoyer, as with the remark, this isn't preseason. So like immediately after he has been fired, the interim head coach is like, we are not doing the same shit that we have done week after week to middling to terrible results and are actually going to see what we have in this young quarterback that we spent a draft pick on and who we don't really have that much to lose with because he's a later round pick. He wasn't a top 10 pick or even a first round pick. And maybe, just maybe, if he's not literally Brian Hoyer or Jimmy Garoppolo, he can feed the fucking ball to Devontae Adams and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, even the ousting of Derek Carr in favor of Jimmy Garoppolo and the pursuing of Jimmy Garoppolo, I've been calling out how they let Jarrett Stidham go, who looked good. When you're a rebuilding team, why are you letting your young quarterback, cost-controlled guy go away to the Broncos when he looked better than Derek Carr in the 2 games that he played? And then, you know, bitching about the fact that you have a rookie as your quarterback. You could have held on to Jarrett Stidham. You could have saved some money. You didn't need to sign Jimmy G, who is a known, like, I mean, honestly, if you really think that Jimmy Garoppolo is the answer, you've got to get your head checked. We all know what he was.
And to your point, even if again, like if we grant, like sure, maybe like Stidham's out the door, he signs with Denver still.
Sure.
Like the swap, the kind of ruthless seeming cutting of Carr, who was like extremely emotional and upset about how things were handled there.
Yeah, well,
you know, I mean,
he's annoying.
Yeah, I mean, annoyingness the aside. From a purely football perspective, I don't think the needle moves significantly by swapping out Derek Carr for Jimmy Garoppolo.
I mean, all things equal, I would take Derek Carr over Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right, in the sense of it's still, I think I would too, but even kind of the makeup is like a 30s-ish quarterback with a fine arm who makes every 5 or 6 plays makes an inexplicably back-breaking decision.
Yeah, and Carr's a bit of a better athlete.
I would say he definitely is a better athlete for sure. So to me, it's almost like so many things I was wondering with many of these offseason acquisitions or moves, and obviously as we've seen throughout the year,
Waller for a 3rd round pick. What was that about?
Yeah, the questions always remain just like, what is this team doing?
Yeah.
Like, what is the outlook for this team? So even I'm thinking, I'm even relieved or pleased to see that even with the firing of Ziegler and McDaniels
and Mick Lombardi, I should say, the OC.
Oh, he was fired as well. The other. I'm even just encouraged to see that, like, immediately they're saying we are going to see what we have with this young guy. Just see what happens. What's the use of not doing that?
Exactly.
Has anything looked better?
No. That's the point. So good job to the Davis family for making the right decision here. It was definitely the right decision, and I'm hoping that the attitudes of Josh McDaniels are kind of ousted from the NFL soon enough. Now, let's do our locks. ESVN.
Stone cold lock of the century. All the week.
Boom. All right, folks. What? You had something to say? You got something to say?
I was just gonna say that the beanie did not work for me because
Yeah.
I inexplicably went
Glasses
1-1
didn't
and
work for
1.
me either. So maybe it's no glasses situation.
Analytics are so stupid.
I know. I know. I mean, honestly, it's almost like this isn't scientific. I went 1-2 last week because the stupid Arizona Cardinals got the onside kick and kicked a field goal, so I didn't cover the spread, even though the Baltimore Ravens did win. I was about to go 2-1. I threw my phone at the couch, a soft landing, understood. So I went 1-2 last week. Bradley went 1-1. He pushed because the Seahawks won by 4 points. He lost because the Houston Texans did not cover the 3.5-point spread, but he did win the Cincinnati Bengals pick at plus 3.5 in San Francisco. I was totally dead wrong about the Rams being able to hang with the Cowboys. Again, I just mentioned the stupid damn Cardinals with their backdoor cover, and the Detroit
yeah, that's
Lions.
a brutal beat. That's a ruthless beat.
Yeah, Detroit Lions -8. I got that pretty easily. So let's start here. I'm going with favorites this week, and Bradley's going with all underdogs. And
The underdog.
at 9-15, I am going with the New Orleans Saints at home -8.5 against the Chicago Bears. It's also my survivor pick.
Same.
Straight up, we both have the same survivor pick, so we'll see if we survive. Like, I think that the New Orleans Saints are starting to come into their own a little bit. The offense is starting to find its groove. They are at home in a dome. Carr's mid arm strength is going to be a little bit less of an issue. The Chicago Bears are reeling. I don't think Tyson Bagent is the answer.
And they just fired their running backs coach, which, and per the reports surrounding it, it was also with cooperation from the HR department. So I don't know what the fuck is going on over there.
Yeah, no,
like,
I mean, the Chicago Bears are completely in disarray. Do we even know what happened to the defensive coordinator?
No, it's like that happened where like there was all this, all this rumor mongering about what happened to Alan Williams, the prior defensive coordinator, and that he got fired for some sort of misconduct. And then literally a similar report just came out about the running backs coach.
So it's just completely, the vibes are over inappropriate activity. We still should probably know more.
What that activity entails, but sure.
Yeah.
And as you said, Tyson Bagent is still, I think, starting. He did not look particularly good against the Chargers last week.
And the New Orleans Saints defense is very good.
It's actually good. It's like legit good.
It's legit good. It's definitely, I would say, top 5-ish. I think it's not controversial to say it's top 5 in the NFL right
and
now.
to your point, Emma, as well, we saw finally after some time, the passing game and run game get activated a little bit more. There was a long Rashid Shaheed touchdown,
yes,
as well as Alvin Kamara definitely having his best game of the season. So this is still a pretty porous Bears defense, even with the addition of Montez Sweat.
Yeah.
So I think they'll still have some ability to get going on the ground and through the air. As you said, also Carr's arm holds up a little bit better without any sort of elements getting in the way.
Yeah. So I'm going -8.5 New Orleans Saints at home. How about you?
I am taking the Dolphins +2 in Germany.
I almost took this too. I think the Dolphins win this game. It's just hard for me to pick it just because of the Chiefs losing, and are they able to?
It certainly could be a bounce back game for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of, I think, factoring in a few things, and this is purely speculative. It's not as if there's anything I have, in terms of,
right,
insider knowledge. But like the combination of if Mahomes is still feeling any sort of residual effects from his illness, the travel, the potential for jet lag, and the potential for the time zone throwing things off, I just think this could be a little bit more of a screwy game than just like the Chiefs, running circles around the Dolphins defense. And this Chiefs defense is one of, if not maybe the best of Patrick Mahomes' tenure as quarterback for the Chiefs. So I'm definitely not underestimating that. I just think what is basically a neutral site.
Yeah.
I think, and I still have faith in this Dolphins offense, and I still think that they could do some damage here and exploit, and also it'll just be exciting to see what Tyreek Hill does against his former team. First time they're seeing each other since he was dealt. So, or since dealt or signed. Did he sign with them? He signed with the Dolphins.
He
wasn't traded, right? He was signed.
Ramsey?
No, Tyreek Hill.
Oh, he was traded.
He was traded. Okay, he was traded. Said he was traded.
Yeah. for a first round pick.
And also Jalen, with the fact that Jalen Ramsey will now also be back. He had an interception in his first time back on this Dolphins defense. So I think there's a possibility I think there is a distinct possibility it'll be close, and I think the Dolphins can win this game. It'll be, honestly, this will be an extremely enlightening and elucidating matchup.
Could be
for the NFL
tiebreak for the playoffs in the AFC.
Right.
I mean, they're going to be vying for best record, and I got to tell you, I like Miami's chances way more in Miami than in Kansas City in January.
Yes.
Yeah. So, or in anywhere else, like the other contenders, like in the AFC, like the Bengals or the Bills. I mean, the Dolphins need to find a way to play in cold, warm weather. So, I am going with the Philadelphia Eagles -3 at home. I'm kind of shocked that this is only the spread that it is. I mean, I would have made it larger. But I think it's because Jalen Hurts' injury is still nagging, and people are not exactly sure how he's going to play. But it's been shown that it doesn't even effing matter. The Eagles are a size team. They are massive up front on the offensive line and on the defensive line. And the Dallas Cowboys are a speed defense. And we've seen that in these instances, when teams are speed-based, the Dolphins included, against the fastest team in the NFL, the Eagles can beat up on them.
Yeah,
and that's and that on top of the fact that the Dallas Cowboys are a momentum team and a bully team. When they don't get out to quick leads and they're not able to stomp on you, they start to completely fall apart. And they don't have a ton of discipline. Mike McCarthy doesn't imbue a lot of discipline in his players. There's always excuses being made down in Dallas. Don't really like his coaching style in this kind of situation against a team that's going to be able to bully them up front on both sides of the ball. So I'm taking the Eagles -3, and I think it could potentially be a blowout.
And they're obviously coming off a really efficient and pretty surgical Dak Prescott offensive performance. But as we've been saying, the issue is the consistency. Like I feel like it's I could be wrong if I'm misremembering, but I kind of feel like we haven't seen like multiple consistent offensive performances from Dallas in the vein of the most recent Cowboys performance, like throughout the year. Like I think that was the first exemplary or kind of like really fantastic Prescott performance of the year so far, where I except maybe the 40-0
well, I mean,
game early in the year.
Well, against the Giants, that was just a rain game too.
Right, and it was there was weather involved. It was like I just feel like I have not been super drawn to like the consistency of the Cowboys offense, and also I think the Eagles defense is in the CeeDee Lamb matchup aside, because CeeDee has been playing some pretty good ball. The run game could potentially be completely neutralized with how good the Eagles run defense is.
And they don't have many answers outside of CeeDee Lamb in order to make that offense look more creative. So honestly, I'm picking the Eagles by a touchdown at least.
All right, so I will go to my next one. I am taking the Rams +3 against the Packers. I am kind of, as much as I know the Rams have been struggling a little bit and have strung together a few losses, I don't think the Packers have been looking like great enough to warrant them getting 3 points against the Rams. I feel like the offense, basically outside of a few chunk plays from Jordan Love, has completely started to sputter and
is falling apart,
and not be able to like maintain or sustain consistent offensive drives. And I think that obviously, as we discussed on Monday, that is also a little bit of a testament to their youth and how young the team is. With every skill position player from their entire wide receiver room and tight end room is basically rookies and second-year players. And the Rams, despite having had a few string of losses, I still I trust the offensive philosophy. I know this will be without Matthew Stafford, so I think that's obviously the one big concern. But the Packers just traded Rasul Douglas away to the Bills before the trade deadline, and the defense has not looked particularly formidable. They've actually been, for my money, extremely disappointing relative to the expectations I had for them.
I hear you, yeah.
So, McVay does a decent job when Stafford is not in the game of game planning for his quarterbacks. He's had success with guys like freaking John Wolford. He had success when Baker Mayfield basically got off the plane in LA and then played in Thursday Night Football against the Raiders last year. I know Brett Rippon is nothing to write home about, don't get me wrong, but I think maybe he'll be able to game plan against a defense that has been pretty disappointing.
I hear you on that. All right. Rams +3. Although, again, I think I might pick the Packers. The more I think about it. At home? I don't know.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Well, yeah. They have the Lambeau advantage. I hear you, but
All right. Well, go with your gut. We are going head to head here. Let's just.
yes, I love it. I love it. I didn't even realize. Well, also for disclaimer, I did not even realize you would pick this pick before I picked mine.
Yes.
So we did this.
No,
on,
I didn't either.
Yeah, we did this on our own.
I am picking the Bengals in Cincinnati -2. Bradley's picking the Bills in Cincinnati +2. I mean, for me, I am just not a believer in the way that the Bills looked. I mean, we talk about the Cowboys being a streaky team. The Buffalo Bills are a streaky
question.
team. But to what you're probably going to say is the Buffalo Bills are going to be motivated given that 27-10 loss in the in Orchard Park last year.
Yes, in the playoffs.
In
last
the
year,
playoffs.
Yeah.
And that was after they barely squeaked by the Skylar
Thompson-led Dolphins.
Dolphins.
Yeah.
The Bills, they're, I feel like, always walking on a razor's edge before they fall apart. And I think Lou Anarumo has shown, and he showed it against the 49ers, the ability to be creative and confusing for offenses. Josh Allen is no Brock Purdy, but Josh Allen has way too much to do in this offense. So can he turn the ball over, make Josh Allen try to do a little bit too much as he can be prone to do, or is forced into doing because of the way that the team is structured?
Can he get Josh into chaos mode, into kind of like full creation mode, like?
And Burrow's just never in chaos creation mode. He's just always cool and calm,
especially healthy now that he's like fully.
Whew. So I'm going Bengals -2.
So my thought is that after some reflection, even though the Bucks game, the Monday night Bucks, was it Monday night or Thursday night Bucks game?
Yeah.
The Bills Bucks game.
Yeah.
Although it was decided, I think, basically by a score at the end of it, I don't necessarily think it was actually that close, just because.
Oh, they let them hang around for way too long.
Just because Josh Allen had like 365 yards and 3 touchdowns, like he was really feeling it and carving up the field, despite a Bucks defense that, while not great as relative to other years, is still just relatively
stout.
Just stout. And Todd Bowles usually just brings it defensively broadly, regardless of personnel, I'd say, in that way. So I still regard, even though I'm not fully bought in, I still think there is some offensive firepower that they can get to. And I think the addition of Rasul Douglas after Trey White going down will be extremely helpful for them, that they at least have a plus corner going in there in lieu of Dane Jackson, in lieu of Kyer Elam, who have been struggling this year. Despite Elam having a little bit of an encouraging rookie year last year, he's definitely been kind of getting a little bit burnt without having the safety blanket of Trey White in that secondary.
Well, I'm insanely excited for this game. I mean, one of the best games of the year.
It's going to be awesome. It's Sunday night, too. It's going to be awesome. I'm really pumped.
I got to say, I've been a little bit disappointed in the games this year, specifically in prime time. I mean, I feel like they've been blowouts for the most part, but let's just look at this.
Yeah, we've gotten a few gross games in Sunday night.
The
for
Week
sure.
9 schedule that we are seeing right here. We have to open, Tennessee at Pittsburgh tonight. I don't care that much about that, although I am curious about Will Levis. Miami at Kansas City early in the morning in Germany, but Miami versus Kansas City. We also have the Seattle Seahawks in Baltimore
which I think is going to be a very interesting game.
Really interesting. Two very good teams. They're both in the Super Bowl conversation in the AFC
and kind of hitting their stride, I'd say, a little bit too. Yeah.
Dallas at Philadelphia, the battle for the NFC East.
Interesting game for sure.
The Buffalo Bills at Cincinnati, and then the Chargers at the Jets. Two teams that are competing for playoff spots in the AFC,
which I would not after week 1 definitely would not have anticipated saying the Jets are still competing for a playoff
I mean, good for those Jets. They're scrappy and they're clutch. They're clutch in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, maybe they're just going to keep winning just some of the sorriest, most foul and vile football games committed to memory and on their way to a playoff.
But hey, that's a culture of winning. Before the savior who never lets us know, never lets us forget that he's around. In his weekly Pat McAfee.
He's around. He's hopefully he's ready for the playoffs. Yeah. Whatever that means.
I know that's I honestly just can't buy this guy's BS anymore.
No,
there's no
I'm actually begging him to not.
Just stop it. I mean, he's undermining his guy Zach a little bit.
I would love for him to not speak anymore publicly.
Yes, I understand.
For at least 2 months.
Well, that's like asking for water in the desert.
Yeah.
Okay? So
not happening.
For week 9, I'm going with the New Orleans Saints -8.5, the Eagles -3. against Dallas at home. The Cincinnati Bengals -2 at home against the Buffalo Bills. Bradley's going with the Miami Dolphins +2 in Germany against Kansas City. The Rams +3 in Green Bay, and the Buffalo Bills +2 in Cincinnati. And both of us are picking New Orleans as a survivor pick if you are still in the survivor pool.
Or zombie survivor pool.
Yes. If you
The undead.
basically this is for you. This is
Yes,
for you
right.
because it's for us it's moot. All right.
It doesn't
folks.
matter.
Yeah, it really does not. Appreciate you all. We'll see you on Monday.
Bye-bye.